call.
Chisel. Neal.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Luce.
Here.
Zittergrun.
Here.
Hadley.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Okay. For public comment, I want to make note that when Chad and I prepared the agenda for tonight's meeting, I requested that the item number 6 concerning the Sustainability Commission's recommendation for a municipal electric utility task force be discussion only, since the city council as a whole has not had opportunity to fully discuss the task force guidelines, objectives, or the membership considerations. Our intent was for the council to engage in full discussion and to do so at a work session on Monday, December 28th. According to the council rules for agendas and their formation, any 2 council members may request an addition or change in the agenda. The request was made by 2 members, thus the agenda item reads, discussion and possible action. In light of that potential action that might be taken, I will allow public comment prior to the council discussion and action of item 6 when council considers item 6. For those who are either in the room or on Zoom, is there anyone who wishes to become before the city council for any matters that are not on the agenda? If so, you're going to have to either raise your hand or let Chad know by any indication. Chad, you see any on your end?
There are none here.
Okay. Okay, in light of that, the consent agenda, please.
The consent agenda consists of the minutes of the November 16, 2020 regular meeting, the claims, Resolution 3138 extending the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on Locust Road from Pinecrest Drive to the city limits, Resolution 3139 to install a no parking corner to here sign near the intersection of Broadway Street and Oak Street, Resolution 3140 setting a public hearing on zoning code amendments, Chapter 17 zoning related to storage containers in the city of Decorah for January 4, 2021 at 5:45 p.m. Resolution 3141 setting a public hearing on zoning code amendments, Chapter 17.68, 17.72, 17.76 zoning code, residential definitions, dwellings, room houses, boarding houses in the city of Decorah for January 4, 2021 at 5:45 p.m. Resolution 3142, setting a public hearing on zoning code amendments, Chapter 17.140 floodplain management ordinance and 17.120 F1 floodplain district in the city of Decorah for January 4, 2021 at 5:45 p.m. And Resolution 3143, approving the negotiation and acquisition of permanent sidewalk and utility easements from property owners for the 2020 Quarry Street and Utility Improvement Project.
This is Hadley. I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Hadley, seconded by Carlson for consent agenda acceptance. Any discussion? Roll call.
Hadley.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Chisel.
Aye.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
And I think that everybody has voted in. It passed. Consider Resolution 3144, resolution fixing value of lots to be assessed and adopting the preliminary plat assessment schedule, plans, and cost estimate. Bruning Sidewalk Improvement Project 2021.
Luce would move 3144.
I'll second it, Johnson.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Chad, has council, or I should say, has our city attorney addressed or had a chance to read the letter from Carl Knutson regarding this?
I'm not aware of a letter from Carl Knutson. I've had several conversations with him, and he's made a Freedom of Information Act or a public record request. We've given him lots of information. I don't have a letter from him, I don't think.
Oh, we all got a letter today.
We all got a letter.
I did not receive that letter.
Okay. I was curious as to whether or not
You would-
City Hall had received one.
We will forward that on to you, Chad. We should have John look at that if he has not.
Okay, we'll review it.
I was also going to ask before the public hearing, is there a timeline of this particular item on sort of what has transpired, and also sort of the relevant documentation, including the covenants? Just before the hearing, if we had like a packet that had everything with the timeline and the covenants that were signed that included information about needing to have sidewalks and all of that stuff, if it could be in like one place, easy to find.
Yeah, I can prepare a brief on that. Now, just to be clear, though, this resolution does not set a date for a public hearing. This resolution just reviews the generalized information for preliminary plat and preliminary plans and fixing values on the lots. We will ask you to approve a resolution of necessity on December 21 that will set the public hearing. And at that time, I can prepare that background for you.
Sure. Thank you for that clarification, too. I thought we were setting the public hearing.
I would just encourage everyone to maybe postpone or vote no to postpone this vote until we have legal counsel address these concerns of constituents in Ward 3.
I don't feel that we need to do that because we have another vote before we even set a public hearing where the constituents would also get a chance to speak again. This isn't putting anybody on the hook. It's just an administrative vote. And it'll provide better data to the people because it'll fix the value of the lots so they'll actually know where they stand.
This is Steve. Just question: do we have a sense of the cost that will be incurred fixing the value of the lots? I mean, is this an expensive assessment process or pretty simple?
It's a fairly straightforward, Steve, this is Chad. It's a fairly straightforward assessment process. You know, we've done assessment projects in the past. There is some city attorney, city engineer time to pull these documents together. But again, for the most part, it's fairly straightforward.
So we have a motion and a second. We're in discussion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Carlson,
No.
Neal,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Chisel.
A motion carried. Discussion and possible action on appointment of a municipal electric utility task force, Sustainability Commission recommendation.
For your sidewalk.
Before, just a minute, I have a statement I'm going to read prior. So I want to remind the council and the public that the city's boards and commissions play significant roles in city government. Their report and recommendations can be very useful to the city council in establishing policies, resolving problems, and helping to provide effective city government. The council provides effective oversight of such boards and commissions. The process does require the city boards and commissions following open meeting laws, open communication, public input, and transparency. The detailed history of the municipal electric utility is a fact. The future is also key for the citizens. For that reason, it is prudent for the council to receive the sustainabilities report and recommendations, review and discuss and establish guidelines for the task force. It is also important for the council to seat a task force that broadly represents the citizens that are served. As mayor, I also feel that action on this matter should be conducted after tomorrow's election, when a Ward 5 council member will be officially selected. There is no immediacy needed for action at this time or this evening. I also had previously at the beginning of the meeting said I would take public comment at this time prior to when the council begins its discussion. So I need to know, first of all, if there's anybody that wants to speak. I believe that there have been some correspondence and some phone calls. But I'm gonna have to rely on you, Chad, to tell me if there's anybody that actually wants to speak at this time.
Are you giving them a time?
There
limit?
is.
I will give a time limit, yes.
I do have somebody here to speak.
Okay, is it a person that's there?
It is a person that is here in the room.
Okay, then they need to step up to the microphone, state their name and the address. I will state that I will be, that I will allow 4 minutes for them to be able to speak.
I've just got a few questions for clarification
Could
on
you please state your name and
sorry.
address?
Kent Clokey, 702 Decorah Avenue.
Yes.
I've just got a couple of questions, a couple of concerns about the Sustainability Commission and now a task force under the Sustainability Task Force. What it sounds like to me is the task force has one mission, and that is to do what it takes to get a municipal electric utility in Decorah. And from what I'm understanding, that is going to take some studies, and those studies are going to take some funding. Who and how are these studies and the work to be done by this task force and that commission? Who funds those? My concern with that is a few years ago, the city had a referendum and the voters voted it down. Granted, it was a close call, but it got voted down. And now we've got it, that seems to be the one and only thing that's on the city council's mind is to get Alliant out of our community. And I'm not sure why that is, because Alliant has always been a good and a great job of a utility, has helped with the community projects, constantly updating equipment, constantly maintaining their equipment so we don't have power outages. They've been on the spot for any power outages. I could go on and on, but I'm just going to cut it short at that. And I don't feel that if it got voted down once, that the taxpayers should pay for more studies when it got voted down. The other thing is this council, and there's members that have complained that Alliance rates are being too high and an increase in that, and then the city council puts on another 4% or whatever that the franchise fee is on top of it, so it really makes Alliance bills look high. another tax for everybody that's paying city utility, the Reliant utilities. So, just, I have those questions and concerns. And would like to have those concerns publicly addressed before this task force is put through on the night before an election, a city election. I think that is just such an interesting timing also, that you're considering voting on a task force on the night before an election in the city.
Thank you, Kent. I appreciate your comments and concerns, and we will make sure to try and address them as they go along. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not taking any.
No, I have a question. I have a question, Mayor. Can I ask you a question?
Can you wait until I see if there's anybody else that wants to speak, and then you ask it prior to when the council starts discussing?
I was just wondering if a timeline might help people. If I could give a timeline on how this came to be, that might help. But if you don't want to.
I prefer that you do that when the council starts discussion.
Sure.
Is there anybody else there that wishes to speak, or anybody else online that wishes to speak? I am not seeing anybody online from what I can see. Do you have anybody else in the room, Chad?
I don't see anybody else here in the room. There are a few of us here. I don't see anybody else here wanting to speak.
Okay, then we'll move on.
Mayor, may I ask a question of John Anderson?
Sure.
John, can you tell me, is the council appointment of filling a open position, Steve Zittergrim is legally appointed at this point, is he not?
Yes, he is.
So there's nothing spurious about this action of taking a vote tonight by all the council people who are currently on the board. Is that correct?
You have the authority. I mean, just like any other item on the council agenda, it's a valid vote as far as legally speaking.
And then a second question, is there anything unallowed by law to have a task force appointed to Decorah who are not residents of Decorah?
Well, it depends upon what they're doing and what it's about. But generally speaking, if it's a task force that all it's doing is providing advice, it's not actually setting policy. The city council or another authorized commission is setting policy. I think that's, no, I don't think that there is anything against it, except for the fact that it's up to you to decide. And there's very few boards that we have where we have non-city residents, and those commissions I can think of have, like the airport commission, that's set out in the statute. Board of Trustees for the library is another one. But again, they have kind of special jurisdiction and authority. And that's why I think the code lays out that they allow, it specifically addresses that their makeup.
So a third question would be, are there other commissions or bodies of the city who have advisory task groups?
Well, I think your tree commission does. I think you probably have a number of them that historically that have had advisory.
The original sustainability group was a task force as well, and had members that didn't all live within the city limits.
Well, isn't it any board or commission? Is it any board or commission other than the Board of Adjustment that provides information to the city council in a similar manner?
They're all recommendation boards.
Okay.
Yeah, except for Board of Adjustment has special jurisdictional authority.
Can I do think if I could give a brief timeline about where we are you know, as the Sustainability Commission Council Liaison, I feel it would be good if I could maybe just introduce a little bit about this. I think Kent brought up some really good questions, and I'd really, I think it's important for the public to understand what this task force is and what it isn't. And I think I could clarify that if I could just give a brief timeline of how things came about. And Chad, if I'm, you know, in any way you're like, oh, actually that was February or something, just let me know. But is that all right, Mayor?
Yes, it is. And then I'll ask you a question. I do have a question for you once you get.
Sure. So the idea behind an MEU task force actually came out of the Sustainability Task Force, which was a group of people, again, that was set up in an advisory role. It wasn't a commission. And there were people who both lived in the country and lived in town, who had expertise around sustainability. And the idea was to bring these people together to make recommendations for sustainability plan and commission for the city. And so they came together, and obviously when that group started, there had been this big vote. And the big vote was, as Ken rightly said, really close, right? That was an election that was essentially lost by 3 votes. And since that time, lots of new information has come to light about the municipalization process, about you know, alliance rates, about some of the things that were said during that election. And along with that, the recognition by the citizens group that had done that actually no public funds had gone into any of the work that had been done for that vote prior. That was all the funds that went into every study had been done by a, you know, nonprofit local group. And I think at that point, and the city council members, and I think that was Steve and Kirk, who were the liaisons at that time, felt like if the city wants to pursue this again, the city should pursue it. Really, that when you look at successful municipalizations across the country, it's often actually the city council pursuing that type of work. So when we set out to do prioritization actually in December of last year, the sustainability plan, which included this call for a task force to look into municipalization, wound up as one of our top priorities, with actually all 7 members putting a sticky note by that plan. Then in January and February, we had several utility committee meetings that were involved both in thinking about the commission and this idea of a municipal electric utility task force, and how do we separate the two, and what does one look like. And even at a utility committee, we talked about whether or not the utility committee should appoint those members. And we just said, you know what, let's let the commission do it. And we had a couple conversations, I'm remembering, that we discussed whether or not members should be only city residents. And we had a couple thoughts on that. One was that an MEU will most likely not recognize city borders. It will most likely mirror alliance territory, and therefore it would make sense to have members who lived outside of town. Another note that I think is important to recognize, that if there was an MEU established in the city of Decorah, you can actually have on your municipal electric utility seats reserved for people who live within the MEU's jurisdiction, but not the city's. So in some ways, a task group could mirror what the MEU might look like as well, if an MEU board was to be established. And so I went to the Sustainability Commission with what the Utility Committee had suggested. We were looking for members, right? We wanted a broad base of homeowners, businesses, industries, nonprofit. We wanted folks who didn't know much about MEUs but were interested. We wanted folks who knew quite a bit about the municipalization process so they could advise and know the questions to ask. We wanted to have folks who understood the Decorah community and could talk with a broad base of people. And so when the commission went out to look for those folks, those were the ideas that were discussed. So I think that hopefully that gives a little bit. I'm trying to think. I know that Ken also asked a little bit about funding. Again, this advisory group won't have funding. They will be talking with experts in the field. If there are consultants that they wanted to hire, they would have to run that through the Sustainability Commission, and that would actually wind up coming back to the council as well. So they don't have spending authority, if that helps ease people's mind. they are tasked. One of the things that has come up there, oh yes, I know that one of the other things that was asked is that it seems like they're just tasked with forming an MEU, and that's actually their duties are severalfold. Really, it is about the learning opportunities. They are going to meet with experts to try to figure out, is it in the city's best interest to think about whether or not we do another feasibility study, have the one that we already have just updated, have the one that we have looked at by another firm, so get a second opinion on the current one that we have, or maybe do a vote before we even do that. But there are other things that the council needs to know, I think, before we decide whether or not to move forward in any direction with an MEU. And we've also been asked by the Iowa Utility Board to provide some input into the municipalization process. And this task group is in a unique position to be able to say, hey, here's the municipalization process as we know it. Here are the barriers, including that funding piece that's huge. And so they will have a unique perspective, I think, that the utility board is asked to have from the city. And again, that would go to the commission and then to the council. But they're essentially the people that can do the work that we don't have time for as city staff, that the council doesn't have time for, and quite honestly, that the commission wants to prioritize, but they are also responsible for an entire plan of which this is one piece. So I'm hoping that helps clear up some misconceptions about how things are. That's the process of where we are. I realize that any time the word MEU is said, that, you know, there's like red flags and white flags and blue flags and gauntlet throwing, right? Because it's the MEU. And I think people look at me as some sort of like dogged MEU, like must have an MEU, right? So I guess I'd just like to make my own statement about the MEU and my feelings about it. When we first investigated an MEU, almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't really even understand municipalization at all. But I'm a researcher. I do my homework. I listen to people. And in doing that, and in the feasibility study and the work that I did with Decorah Power, I see some huge potential for what this could mean for the city of Decorah, in our ability to harness the power of our own energy dollars here locally. Does that mean that now in 2002, it's going to be the best decision? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But I know as a council member, as a teacher, as a mother, that you got to have a team helping you figure that out. No one person, no one council can do it on their own. And so this task group is the group that we can look to help us answer the questions about, well, now in 2002, is this still a good idea? And what are the things that we need to know? And how can we work with the utility board so that we are lowering the barrier of what can a city do against $1 billion, you know, Goliath of a corporation, and try to figure this out. So I guess that's just, you know, I think there's a lot of, I don't know, unintended fire, I think, when it comes to the MEU, because I think people are just suspicious, and I want to be as open as possible that there are no hidden agendas. There is no like takeover plan. There's just what's best for Decorah. And I guess I'm just interested, and I know that all the members who have said they were willing to serve on this committee, in spite of the divisiveness of it, I think everyone is just like, well, what's our potential? And can we look into that and figure it out? So.
Good. I wanted to get back to you as far as I think the statements that you've made are exactly what has been stated, you know, as we've gone along. Where I am having problems is that this is not where it has been in the commission level. It has not come before the full council for discussion. Not so much you're going to do it or you're not going to do it, but I think that there are some key guidelines that the council, it's the council's responsibility to put down for the task, what the task is, who's working with it, and such on that order. The other piece is that I have seen potentially 3 lists. I saw the initial list that came from the commission and the work that they did. I saw another list that came from the public which took some consideration. And then I saw the final list that the commission brought forth during the work session last Wednesday. And then I had also made a request because I feel it's extremely important that somebody who is familiar with the utility infrastructure in the city be on that task force. And so when I looked at what was the list that was brought forth on Wednesday, there were at least 5 new names that were on that list that never had been brought up in any other discussion. And I think that that's one concern I had. I also know that I'm concerned about the number of people that are outside the city limits that are on that commission. Not that we did talk about the potential of having people that were in field. They did talk also Wednesday about having a resource listing for the commission to be able to address. I know there's a couple people on the list currently that I think really need to be on the resource list. And I also feel that there should be opportunity for the council and the full council to be able to look and vet that list and to figure out who might be available. I appreciate it. Just a minute. No, just a minute. You have to wait, Emily.
I'm sorry, I just assumed you were.
I'm not quite done. I'll let you know, okay? Anyway, I appreciated the document that Jim Martin Tram did put forth. They did a lot of explaining about the members on that list. I'm also fully aware of the fact of the enormity of the discussion in the fact in the last election it was 50-50. So there's at least a little more than 50% of the population that we hear from. You may not hear from, but I hear from. And I want to make sure that that population is heard. The other thing is I am interested in having also businesses like Rockwell Collins, Gemini. They are huge electric users as well, and I don't see representation there, and I do have potential names that could be on that. And I also think that there should be some representation from the people that live outside the city that are actually pulled into this. And so those are the concerns that I feel need to be worked out more with a full council discussion in a work setting. Okay, now I'm done.
I was just going to suggest, given what you just said, Mayor, I'm pretty sure Jim Martin Tram is on the call. He and Ben Grimstead were the 2 gentlemen who made innumerable calls. And actually, I think you should be happy. I do believe that Doug Hamilton was contacted at your request for industry. I actually don't know where Doug lives. I know he works for Deco, and I think that was the idea. There were several people who were contacted on those lists who declined. Many people were declined and didn't want to be known that they declined or were asked. So I do think, rather than having it be a discussion just between you and I think we could invite Jim to explain how the list came about. And I do know also that folks like Roger Halverson and Scott Kirkby, and that there are several people that we were given names who understand utility infrastructure, and the commission, not me, the Sustainability Commission had that discussion, that it would be really great to actually use them as consultants and not actually put them on the actual committee, thinking about where strengths and strategies were. And I also know that the commission had discussed just having too many people, and that 9 seemed good, so they were looking for that broad base. And so I think as people started to say no, names got brainstormed within the energy section of that task group. So I think you should just ask Jim. He's on the call. He can answer a lot of those questions about who was asked and how many people were asked and how the lists all got merged and so on and so forth.
Respect, the work that was done on the list. My issue is the fact that it hasn't come before the council And I want to have council members be able to state, also to be able to either add to that list or either bring forth additional names or to have a discussion in full council work session.
That's what we're doing right now. We are discussing right now.
No, what we're doing is listening to the report that's coming from the commission. I'm looking to be able to have more of a discussion with the council.
Mayor,
Yes.
thank you for your concern about the council and about the city. I agree that it's a divisive issue, but we did establish a sustainability commission to advise us, the council, right?
Correct.
We approved the sustainability plan, not adopt, we approved, which one of the things within the plan was for the sustainability commission to act. And they did, and brought forth this group of names so that the city council doesn't have to do the work. I would be happy to discuss this list that's here, but this group is not setting a vote. They're not budgeted. It's an advisory group to a commission that we appointed. So I think we are overthinking it. I appreciate your concern, but I would like the council to be able to talk. I don't feel that it requires a work session. And if other council members feel that it requires a work session, we don't have to act on it. But I think you've given enough notice of how you feel and how you feel about the council. And Emily, you're certainly passionate about it, but just let us talk.
Okay, I agree with that. I do have one question, but I will wait until after the other council members talk. So why don't we just go around? I'll just call on each of you. How about if I start with Kirk?
I don't know. I know everyone on this list except for one. I'm not met Judge Bagley before, but I think they're all tremendous folks that have, been part of this community and around this community for some time. I've worked with a couple of them at Luther. I know 8 of the 9 very, very well, and I think they're ultimately qualified to advise our Sustainability Commission on this issue. So I have no qualms about any of these people. The one I don't know is an appeals court judge. I think he's probably has pretty good judgment.
Andy.
I guess I'm just a little confused as to what are we looking for people who are looking to approve the MEU? Are we just looking at people who are supposed to be impartial, take in the information and then make sound judgment calls? I guess I'm looking for more of a free-flowing conversation here as opposed to putting everyone on the spot and making them make a decision. Are we looking for individuals who are served by the Alliant territory? I know Emily said that we wanted people outside the city limits, which I completely understand because, Alliant reaches beyond city limits. But is every individual on this task force served by Alliant, and should that be a requirement? I guess I've also heard one of the people on this list doesn't live in Decorah or even near Decorah full time. I don't know. I guess I just have a lot of questions.
Thank you. Let's see, Roz, I'll go across. Steve, did you have more that you wanted to offer?
I'd have to say that I was part of the work to establish the Sustainability Commission. And in doing their work, they have come with a list of people they think would be good on a task force to apprise the Sustainability Commission of how to continue. And so I'm very supportive of the people on the list. I find it ironic that you made comment about not trusting people outside of town being on the, and then you quote, we need to contact 2 businesses that are not located in Decorah because they use electricity out of Freeport. So I don't think we can go both ways, Mayor. I think we need to recognize the people on this list are very astute persons who have good focus on business and nonprofit and the world. and I think they would do a good job in advising the Sustainability Commission.
Does Andy want to,
Let me go through all the council first, please.
I was just trying to address what Andy asked.
That's okay. Just hang on to it and ask him in just a little bit. Steve Sittigroom.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll say that as someone who, when the last municipalization decision was being made at the citywide level, I was on the fence whether I'd vote for or against it. I'm not going to share my vote here, but I should say that at the time I was sort of on the fence. Subsequently, I've kind of come to believe that there should be a task force, and a large part of and a task force that actually advances us towards another vote. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's come to light that we weren't always dealt with honestly and in good faith by Alliant. And so I'm interested in pushing this process along. It seems like as Ross has said, we asked our commission to come to us with a list of names. They did a lot of careful deliberation. I'm sure that each of us individually might have ways in which we wish that list had been compiled a little differently, or with maybe slightly different interests represented, but on the whole and in balance, it seems to represent a balanced number of perspectives in Decorah. People who have different interests and different expertises, and I see no reason not to move ahead with this tonight, although I'm eager to hear from people who disagree with that. I'm certainly willing to be convinced. I will say, as far as the appropriateness of the timing of this vote happening the night before a special election, just that to two things. The first is that I am on the city council, and I was put on it by people who are democratically elected by the people of Decorah to lead them. These are the processes that our founders all agreed to when they put our city code on the books. And so I don't actually appreciate the insinuation that the work of the city shouldn't continue when we have a fully seated, legally elected or appointed council. And I also will say that I was appointed partially to replace Johanna Bergen. And so I certainly think that my interests and where I suspect she would have come down on this are in alignment. And so I don't see any reason to postpone the vote for that particular reason.
I think the only one I have left is Randy, and I'm assuming I can't see that far to the back, but I'm assuming that he's sitting there.
Yes, Mayor, I'm right here. Okay, I do have a lot of questions, concerns. First off, on the names that were submitted that were not talked about prior to the special meeting that was held, along with the assurance that we had council support to get this moved through, is discerning. I do agree that the representatives on this task force should be from the community. I feel badly for the people who are served by Alliant that do not live in the city, because no matter what decision the city makes, they're stuck with it also without a vote. But I strongly believe that the representatives on this should be from the city, because then they can find out, are the city residents willing to bond up to $30–40 million to get this off the ground if it moves through that far? And if not, we're spinning our wheels, and we would need a 60% vote on that. So it's not going to be 3 votes. It's going to have to be a 60-40 split to get that supermajority to get this moved through. Is just the multiple lists, and then this list comes out at the last second that nobody saw, is discerning also. And that's got a lot of folks concerned in the community, and we do have a couple of letters for that. Thank you.
Let's see, Chad, you have those letters that people sent that wish to be read?
I do have 2 letters that were sent that they did request they be read into the record whenever you'd like me to do that.
Can we just address one of the things that Andy said?
Sure.
Okay, Andy said, I get that I need to be shushed sometimes, and I'm good with that, right? And I get that I talk a lot. I'm good with that. Like, we should be talking. I want all of you to talk more. But I do really value something that Andy said, which is that we have to be able to have a discussion, which is a back and forth, so that when questions are asked, they get answered, right? I mean, it's not as if we need to put all these rhetorical questions out there that don't have answers. We can discuss, some of us are holding answers in our hand, right? I think as we, two members express concerns about how do we have representation on this committee, or how does this committee do work, and who was selected, and who likes MEUs, and I think the commission, as someone who attends all their meetings, did a really good job deliberating about not stacking a committee with people who are all yes people for MEUs. I think there are people on this committee who don't know a lot about an MEU at all. They had those conversations, right? The commission had the conversation. But I think I want to draw the attention to, we're so focused about these people who are all great people, right? And Kirk attested to that. And we're not looking at their duties, right? It's actually more important to me what we're having them do. So for example, one of their tasks is to convene meetings with key stakeholders, large customers, senior citizens, downtown businesses, Freeport residences, city business and leaders, to identify and address concerns. Like, the whole purpose of having this committee is to actually hear what people think and feel about an MEU. The truth is, if everyone wanted to serve on a commission and a committee, we wouldn't have such trouble finding 9 people to sit on an MEU. Keep in mind, it's taken them 3 months to fill this committee, right? They've had so many no's. So it's not as if this group is going to sit together, all 9 of them, and make decisions. They aren't. They're going to do the legwork of what we're all dreaming about, talking to people who don't agree with it, finding out, why will it need a vote of 60%? Aren't we looking at revenue bonds? Those are something very different than general obligation bonds, right? I mean, so all of the questions that we have as council members, all of the concerns that citizens have, this is a group of people, which is one of the reasons they were looking for some skill sets of, like, are there writers on the group? Are there speakers on the group? Are there people who will get out and knock doors and talk to people and get their opinions in the group? Because it's a group that's going to communicate with our community about an MEU. They're not a PAC. They're not a political organization charged with getting a vote. They are not going to decide whether or not we get to have a vote. That's our job. These are just people who are willing, and God bless them, to carry out the 5 duties that the commission outlined, to do the legwork that I think all the questions that we have right now are asking.
Okay, thank you. Chad, would you read those letters at this time, please?
All right, the first one is from Stephen Knipe, West Decorah. Thank you very much for sending me the list of names for the proposed Sustainability Task Force. I have attended every meeting of the Sustainability Commission and was surprised at the last special session meeting that the task force was announced. How was the task force named with no discussion? Doesn't this have to be an open meeting? And who picked the task force? It seemed as though many commission members had no idea who was on the task force until it was put on the Zoom screen. Again, no discussion. 4 members picked on the task force are not on any published list. How did they get picked? No meeting minutes reflect this. I called 18 people on these lists that are highly qualified local business leaders, and they never received one phone call or any communication. Keith Bruning has over 40 years of dealing with utilities, municipalities, doing feasibility studies and estimates, plus is a top 2 or 3 employer in Decorah and a huge Alliant ratepayer, and he never even got a phone call. How can he not be qualified? Mayor Borowski also has a list of people that were overlooked. The municipality task force cannot be one-sided. It is a shame the new Sustainability Commission has gotten off to such a rocky start with these definite questionable practices. Mayor Borowski, please fix this. The second one is from Jody Neese. I don't understand why the Sustainability Commission's only agenda is an MEU. The people named to the task force have definite ties to either Luther or the Winneshiek Energy District. Why rush to vote? Almost every person listed is for an MEU. Seems like a total waste of time when it's a given what the outcome will be. It won't be based on fact. It'll be a biased opinion of a special interest group. If the duties of the task force are to meet with key stakeholders, why aren't any of them on the task force itself? If you are sworn to be transparent and follow the will of the people, why is this commission headed in the opposite direction? Luther isn't the only entity being affected by this. There's a whole community out there. Open meetings and public input is what's called for, not the meetings before the meeting. That's against the law. We need leaders that will look honestly at the information and make decisions based on truth.
Thank you. One question that I have is the time frame as far as having a vote now versus getting more input from the public, since there are a lot of, there are several people that have questions. There's some council people that have questions. There are people that wish to speak that may not be here tonight. And if there was somebody that I missed, but why is it pertinent that we would not be able to have a work session or even have a public comment session concerning the task with the task force? And what is the timeline so set that we could not do some more looking for a certain period of time?
You know, I won't say it. I'm self-censoring.
I guess I will say that this hasn't actually been a short period of time. The commission has actually been working on it all fall. I do feel like there's a lot of stalling going on unnecessarily, because as I said, this isn't like some giant threat to the city of Decorah. I think it's disrespectful to our commission. They've done a lot of work. They didn't have secret meetings. Their meetings have been open to the public, and actually Jody and Steve have been at all their meetings. I've been at all their meetings, so I've seen them on the phone calls. This wasn't a secret list. It's been an open document on Google Docs. The council didn't just get it. You actually had it, you had it Wednesday, which is earlier than we get most things. I mean, I just got letters today from things. So I guess it doesn't feel rushed to me. It feels like we're trying to stall, and that feels disrespectful to the commission and to the work that they said that they were charged to do. As I said, I don't see it as our role to, if we want to do the work of the Sustainability Commission, then we shouldn't have them. I mean, that's their role. That's what they're supposed to do, right? And so I could say a lot of things because, we live in a post-truth society, I guess, in which people's opinions are facts, but there are meeting minutes. There are many things that are there and said, and I guess people can go back and do the work themselves if they want to find out the truth. But
I'm just going to call the motion. I'm going to call the vote. And we can feel free to have discussion after I make this motion, and I assume we get a second. But we're appointing a task force to get public input. It's kind of like voting on the sidewalks. We're not voting on an MEU. We're not voting to spend any money. We're just voting to appoint people to go get input from other people. So I think we're all going about it the same way. Lorraine, you're asking for more time and more input. Once this task force is established, they'll have plenty of time to get people's input and people to talk and listen and whatnot before it goes back to the Sustainability Commission, before it comes back to the City Council. So I feel like we're chasing our tails. So I would make a motion to approve the list for the Municipal Electric Utility Task Force as submitted.
And sorry, Ross, could I just ask the term of, or the length of time that these people will be appointed? Is it indefinite or is there a sunset?
it isn't, I think it's like somewhat indefinite, but probably, I think what the document said was something like a year or a year and a half. There isn't an end date because it just kind of depends what the council's going to ask them to do.
I would just ask that there be something in there about
Yeah,
an end date. I mean, you can always reappoint, if need
let's
be,
do
but
it. Let's do a year.
That sounds good. A year's great.
Bruce will second the motion.
So I have a motion and a second. Now there's
Oh, hold on one second. And can we also, this will include the entire recommendation, include the duties, the organization duties and membership, correct? That this motion will cover all of that?
I motioned it as submitted, so
Great, thank you.
I think, and discussion, so I do have something to discuss. I have every respect of that Sustainability Commission and what they're doing. My question is not trying to hinder what they're doing. What I'm attempting to do is to get more of the questions answered, such as the case in point that John just brought up. As far as the terms, what's the length of terms? What's the expectancy? One of the questions too is this is going to take staff time also, and how do we work with that piece as far as the organization? I am asking for a little more time as far as working with some of those questions that really are needed for the organization of the piece, not so much in what the task is set out to do, but I still feel that there's questions that can be worked out.
and I feel like they can be worked out after we get the names
Yep.
done.
They got it, we just made it a year, so that one done. Look at how quick that got done. A year.
One of the other questions is, let's say, is there any chance that there could be replacements on that commission at a given time? Somebody goes off, somebody is not attending. How does it work where other names can be brought onto that committee?
Just like any other commission, I suppose if the Sustainability Commission says our task group needs more members, they'll tell us. I mean,
Right.
it's a task group of the commission, not really even ours.
That's
Right.
one thing we have to remember. It is a task group. It's not
Yeah.
a commission or a
It is.
I mean, I can
board
give
or an agency.
the best example, Mayor, is when you appointed the task group for the sustainability plan. We had people come and go because, you know, someone left, they got a new job, someone moved out of town, and then you said, oh, so and so can be on it. I mean, it was a group that did lose people, and then if there needed to be a replacement, it was recommended that they put someone else on it. In the same way that I would imagine the task group is going to be talking to a whole bunch of people, and they may come to us and say, hey, we kind of need this, but you know, or we've been talking to this group of people and we'd like to include them in the task group. I mean, that's for them to decide. That's why let's get them started.
And what is the role of the council in this?
The council is appointing the task group right now.
That's correct.
And then listening to the results that the Sustainability Commission provides based on the task group feedback. So we're not directly involved other than approving the task list.
Yeah, that leads some question as far as general structure of council.
You know, because you have a liaison to the council, you have a council liaison to the Sustainability Commission, right?
That's correct.
The task group is asking, so part of their ask is for a city council member to also be a liaison to the task group. So we could appoint that tonight, or we could wait. That's also a council decision. But I think right now we have a motion on the floor to pass their resolution, and I think we need to discuss probably their council liaison as well.
No, you can't, they're not on the agenda.
Randy, I'm just curious if you could sort of elaborate your opposition to this motion, especially, you know, in regard to people from out of town serving on it. I'm sort of amenable to that argument because, you know, especially to the extent that they're expending city resources. You know, I guess I'd like to hear you say more about that, and also if you have other reasons for considering a no vote, I'd like to hear them.
Well, the biggest reason is their recommendation could end up costing us a lot of money if, you know, they push forward with this. And if, like the last time in 2018, when one group came in with a $50 million buyout and the other group came in with a $5 million buyout, we're not getting true facts. Well, people believed one, people believed the other. You know, I want to know the truth, and the people that are on this commission should also be the ones that could potentially be on the hook for it, so that they're looking out for our best interests. A lot of these folks, if they don't live in the city and they're not served by Alliant Energy, they have no financial stake in whatever advice they give us.
I'd say a lot of the people on the list do have a huge financial stake in this community.
I was going to say, I don't know that there's anyone on the list that doesn't have a financial stake in the community. That's for sure.
The out-of-town people?
Yeah, they still have a financial stake in this community. I don't know where Doug lives. Yeah. Pete Espinosa, you're going to argue his financial stake in Decorah?
He can pick up and leave too if he wants to.
Anyone can. Anyone can.
Okay. I will continue to bring questions before the sustainability, no matter what the vote is, and encourage public to bring comments and questions to both Sustainability Commission and the council. Any further discussion?
Well, this is Steve Zittergren again. We've heard from a few members of the public, and we've heard that this list of names, this particular one, is loaded. It's biased towards municipalization. Obviously, you probably don't want someone who's there to be super disruptive or is opposed to it from the very beginning. I'm just curious if there is anyone who can speak to the specific efforts that were taken to ensure balance, on the work on the task force.
And are you asking somebody on the commission that formed the list? Is that what your question is being directed to?
Yeah, I'm curious how.
Jim's on the call. You can ask Jim. I think Jim Martin Schramm is on the call. He's head of the Sustainability Commission.
Sure.
Yeah. And Jim, just for context, what's informing this is that as I've been talking to members of my ward, I get the sense that there's a lot of people that feel like the council is, representative of maybe a small slice of Decorah, maybe the more progressive part of Decorah's politics. And I want to make sure that our working groups are formed to be at least open to hearing the perspectives of a wider swath of Decorah citizens. So I'm just curious, could you talk about anything that you did specifically to ensure diverse perspectives on the commission or the working group, the task force?
Task force, yeah, we have so many terms. Yes, definitely. Ben Grimstead and I are the two commission members who are responsible for the energy and transportation goals that are in the sustainability plan that the council approved, I don't know, about a year ago or so. And so this particular action item to establish a task force is one of the items that's in that plan. And so it fell to the two of us to sort of, all right, try to bring this to the point where we could bring something to the city council, because ultimately that's how that works, right? All major decisions are made by the city council. So an initial list of names was brainstormed by myself and by Ben and other commission members. I remember Ben and I met with the mayor and with Chad Bird, city manager, to discuss that list and other names. And either at that meeting or after that meeting, I honestly can't remember, Chad sent to me a list of names that had been submitted to him by a member of the public. Ben and I looked at those names. We contacted some of them. We knew some of the people on that list were adamantly opposed to the prospect of establishing a municipal electric utility. And as you said, Steve, to some extent you folks like that can be obstructionist, and so it didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to us to appoint people to the task force that were pretty clearly opposed to it throughout the deliberation last time. We approached a person on connected to someone on that list. I have to be careful, right? I don't want to get into specific names, but we approached somebody who is connected to who is part of a business whose member who the other principals are on that list. And while the person we contacted was very interested, he ultimately declined because the other members on the list that was proffered to Chad were very much opposed to it for political reasons, primarily, that they were concerned that simply being on the task force would be perceived as support for an MEU, which of course, if you read the duties, is not the case. So that's one example. Another example is another person on that list I contacted. Ben had contacted the other person. And this person is part of a very successful business in Decorah, was initially very open to the idea. After I sent him the list of duties and tasks, he called me the next day and said, you know, Jim, I very much support this. I think it's important. I think the task force needs to help our community think about the strengths and weaknesses of establishing an MEU, but I cannot risk losing half of my customer base. And so he chose to withdraw his name from further consideration. So those are two examples of conversations that were had. The question about lists, and that there's one list here and there's another list there. There's just names, and our job as a commission was to provide a recommended slate of members to the city council. The city council decides who's on the task force. We're just proffering a recommended slate. After a considerable amount of work, contacting a lot of people, trying to get a diverse representation in terms of gender, in terms of age, in terms of employment, a type of business. There are some categories that we wanted to include that we ultimately, I think, failed to include, trying to find someone that could represent the poor, someone who could represent the elderly, people living on fixed incomes, with only 9 slots kind of as a maximum. And that was on the basis of a conversation with Chad and Mayor Borowski. We thought 9 was probably the largest that would make sense. And of course, to that will be added a city council liaison. So there's just a lot of factors up in the air, but ultimately the slate was presented at the commission meeting last week. That was a full 75-minute meeting. This was the first item on the agenda. The slate, along with the duties and process, was put out there. There was abundant time for discussion by commission members and the members of the public that attended. Emily, am I wrong about that? This is not being done behind any kind of closed door whatsoever.
And Mayor, I just want to note that we signed a franchise agreement with Alliant. I had a meeting with Alliant today, a Zoom meeting regarding their new campus. We have now spent more time discussing a task group in an advisory capacity to a subcommittee than Alliant, their architect, a structural engineering firm, the city engineer, and the city manager. And you were also invited on planning the future for Alliant Energy in Decorah. We've now spent more time talking about this list of names than Alliant and their entire infrastructure in Decorah. So it's I would like to call the motion.
Any other discussion?
I'd like to thank Jim for sharing.
Thanks, Jim.
Sure. Sorry, I muted myself again.
Hearing none, roll call.
Hadley,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Chisel,
No.
Neal.
Aye.
Okay, motion pass. I appreciate the discussion. I appreciate being able to bring forth comments that I hear from the public as well. And I'll look forward to the future discussions with the task force in the sustainability.
We, Mayor, part of their ask was for a city council liaison to be appointed by the council. I would suggest that we, given the length of this discussion already, I would suggest that we put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
I would appreciate that. That's a great idea. Thank you, Emily. Okay. Consider approval and certification of 2020 residential tax abatement applications. This looks like, Chad, you want to give some information on that?
Yeah, you just have one additional application that came in. It's actually in two parts. It's part of the same apartment complex on Valley Drive. It just has two addresses because it's two separate buildings. It's all interior work or improvements, but it is a qualified project, so we present it for certification.
Move for approval.
And just to make certain, that's over by Haugen, kind of in the back where the apartments are.
That's right, and it's just south of Fifth Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
I'd move to approve the residential tax abatements.
Second.
Motion made by Randy, seconded by Carlson. Any discussion? Roll call?
Chisel,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Okay, consider board and commission's appointment. Board of Adjustment is reappointment by Sue Sander. And Human Rights Commission is Rowan Collins.
Do we need to do them separate, or can we do them
Yeah,
together?
you've typically done them separate, I think,
Okay.
John.
They've been
Move for
done separately,
approval of
please.
Sue Sander for the Board of Adjustment reappointment.
Looking for a second?
I had asked Chad about term limits for this. I see that Janelle and Sue have been on for over 10 years. I certainly appreciate their service, but have we advertised to see if anyone else is interested? I mean, putting someone in a 15-year term just seems like a lot.
I'll second the motion to reappoint Sue Sander.
Okay, so we have a little bit out of, we have a motion and a second and Ross's question. I need some help from Dad or,
Well, just to clarify, you know, it's been past practice for many years if folks are willing to serve, that the mayor consider that appointment in recognition of their willingness to serve. Absent that, we typically don't advertise or, you know, otherwise promote vacancies unless there's, you know, folks that are really not willing to serve. Sue is willing to serve.
We should.
And I thank her for that. It doesn't have to be a discussion for tonight.
I thank her for that too. We should promote them because I do think somewhere we're trying to look for diversity in our commissions and boards. I think we always have to advertise when we have openings. Just an aside.
So just to be clear, one thing that I do is in the month before the expiration of a term, we have a brief conversation at that board meeting or that board or commission meeting. So there is a brief conversation. Most of it's coming just from me to the commission saying, so-and-so is up, you know, this month. So-and-so, you ought to have a conversation with the mayor about whether you're interested in running or not. So there is a very brief public conversation at every board and commission meeting that I serve as staff liaison for.
Does it?
I would just add, though, too, that gender diversity is important as well. And we have a difficult time sometimes finding women to run for these seats or these spots. So if Sue Sander wants to continue to serve, I think that's fine. I think that's great. So, and I would thank her for her 10 years of service too.
Any further discussion on Sue Sander? Hearing none, roll call.
Chisel,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Luce,
Aye.
Carlson,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
The Human Rights Commission, Rowan Collins.
Um,
I would move his appointment.
I think
I'll second it. I was just gonna say,
Rowan's a girl. I think
when do we? I do want to throw out there. I meant to ask, but I didn't want it to be confused with Sue Sander because I separate aside. So, just for clarification, we don't advertise that we have openings in the paper or anything of that nature.
No, we don't, Emily. We've talked about this a little bit before, is because the commission appointments come up so randomly. You know, there's probably one or two every couple of months throughout the entire year. They're just staggered all over the place.
Okay, can we add that to in a work session? I'd like to talk about that because I think we should. This has nothing to do with the people here. I thought we did, and I think we should.
we do announce monthly openings that are coming up, I believe. But, okay, do I have an emotion and a second on Rowan?
I don't have a second on Rowan.
Emily seconds Rowan.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'll just say that I worked with Rowan at the food pantry, where the AmeriCorps sent a bunch of their volunteers to come to the pantry and help out, and you know, capable, exceptional, and has a good volunteer's heart. So I certainly think this is a great appointment.
Okay. Thank you. Roll call.
Luce,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Zittergrun,
Aye.
Hadley,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. City manager, okay. How about city manager, department head, and council reports?
Just a couple of quick things from the managerial department. I have been working through the council goals from February, and I have two items to give an update on. Number one, I had a conversation last week with our city's financial advisor regarding the capital improvement plan and working through developing a financial analysis of the capital improvement plan and a plan moving forward for that. And I think we've got some pretty good understanding of kind of what the plan looks like and a financial plan moving forward. Expect some more information from Michael Maloney, Wanda, and myself on that here in the next few weeks. Secondly, I would like to introduce Greg Swanson, our code compliance officer. I don't know if he's on the Hollywood Squares board there anywhere. I can't see him, but he's not here in person. I'm very happy to have him on board. He and I have already engaged in some pretty good conversations about building codes. He's been out looking at nuisance properties and that for us, and has already provided some good input on that. So excited to move that project forward. Department and staff reports are in your Dropbox as usual during this pandemic, but certainly staff are either in the room or on the board as well if you have questions. Otherwise, that's all I have. Thank you.
One question for you, Chad.
Yeah.
Can you help the council understand the status on the resolution to change the supervision of the police department?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I think the last public safety meeting we had, maybe back in October, I'm not sure of the date, we discussed that ordinance a little bit. The chief had some concerns with some wordsmithing or some language. I think he sent that information to the city attorney. So I think John and Dave and I need to get together and just finalize that and bring it back to council.
Yeah,
Look forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah, we were waiting for some information coming back. Okay, Wanda.
Can't hear.
We can't hear at all. Like she had come up and.
She's getting a microphone.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, that's fine.
All right, nothing exciting to report, just continuing to work on the fiscal 22 budget. It's a long process, and so just continuing to work on that.
Okay. Is there somebody at the podium that wants to speak or?
Yeah, Chief Smutzler's at the podium, and Chopper also wants to say something, so we'll let the chief go first.
Okay.
Hey, I just wanted to take a minute to publicly thank Decorah Police Officer Jim Frost. Officer Frost recently announced his retirement. His last day on the force will be December 15th. Officer Frost has been a police officer for the previous 16 years, 10 of which he served our community. Jim's a very dedicated, intelligent, committed, and professional police officer. He's going to be greatly missed. One thing about Jim, you wouldn't know it by looking at him, but Jim has a great sense of humor, very quick-witted man. That's what we're going to miss about him as well. Jim's also a rarity in the fact that you won't find anybody, sheriff's deputy, police officer, dispatcher, that's going to say anything negative about Jim. Jim was loved by everybody. And I just wanted to say thank you to Jim for the previous 10 years serving our community and wish him well in the next phase of his life.
Thank you.
Is he there?
Jim.
Is he there,
Here,
Chief?
here.
He's not here. Officer Frost is not here. Did somebody ask that?
Yeah. So clapping to Officer Frost. Congratulations on your retirement, Officer Frost.
Thanks for your service.
Hey, Chopper.
All right, so I just want to give a quick update. Chad and I will be submitting an RFP out tomorrow, looking for responses on public-private partnership potential for fiber to the premise. There's been several people that have been waiting for this RFP to come out, several businesses and providers. So that should be going out probably tomorrow. We'd hope to get it out today, just with the council prep, just didn't get to it today. So I just wanted to give that little update to the council. I think when's early January, I believe, Chad and the telco might look at asking Andy to set up a utility-type meeting or something like that to get everybody on the same page after that.
When are those due back, Chopper?
First week of January, I believe, is what we were
Thank
looking
you.
for.
That's a great thing to look into, and I wish all the success in the world that we'd be able to provide that.
Yep, thanks, guys.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chopper. Thank you, Chad.
Let's see. I'm gonna go by the boxes that are here. I guess in the top row, Emily?
Yeah, just giving a little update on the Sustainability Commission. They've been meeting monthly. Highly organized commission. I'm very impressed. They are they brought in Woodwell, and I think that you all have access to that tape. It was a very informative flood study, and I think gave a really good look at sort of future predictions of floods here in Decorah. And I know lots of questions were asked about looking at Dry Run Creek and what's our sort of in-flooding potential. And I think Chad was going to follow up maybe with them and the commission on what we could learn there. The Sustainability Commission has spent the last month talking quite a bit about the communications aspect of the sustainability plan and what that really means, and trying to wrap their head around that very large task within the plan. And I think we'll be hearing more from them and asks related to communications plan. And in conjunction with that, there was some question last meeting. I brought up the idea that the HRC is interested in this sort of mission, vision, and values statement that also sort of coincides with the sustainability plan to some degree. So I'm actually hoping to pull together some representatives from HRC and the Sustainability Commission to talk about what that might look like. So maybe they would have a joint proposal to council on what that kind of work would look like moving forward. Other than that, you know, obviously COVID numbers are all over the place and somewhat astronomical. So just wishing everyone in the community to stay safe, mask up, be well, enjoy the holidays. And it does look promising for next year, this time of year, in terms of vaccines. I'm excited, but that's what I got.
Thanks, Emily. Steve Luce?
I would say that Emily, Ross, Kirk, and myself as chair meet as the Economic Development Committee after this. The rest of the council are invited to come too if they'd like, but we'll be talking about 3 agenda items that are in the Dropbox. And did meet with Smith last week. They are not planning to meet January and February. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Ross?
I just wanted to thank you, Mayor, for appointing me as liaison to the Telecommunications Utility Board. And I really also want to congratulate them, Chopper especially, and Chad and Michael Maloney for the yeoman's work to get this RFP out the door for fiber to the home. It's kind of an unsung story, but we know that in COVID times that internet is more important than ever. We recognize that as a city, and we hope that public-private partnerships will allow the city to have an opportunity to have fiber to the home. So again, kudos to Chopper, Chad, Michael Maloney, and the Telecommunications Utility Board for keeping the ball rolling on that. And as I kind of snuck in this earlier in the meeting today, we did have a Zoom meeting with Olson, Pope, and Novak, architects, and Alliant Energy to discuss their new campus. They're going to do they're improving all the former Bruning land on the from outside of the Fairfield Inn going toward Highway 52. They're very excited, and they want to be a partner. And as we're in a franchise agreement, we're looking at short street alignment and sidewalks and things that we can do in partnership with Alliant to improve that area and the Trout Run Trail. And Chad has been a great reference on that. Jacob, our key account manager from Alliant, was on the Zoom earlier, but I believe he's gone. But I wanted to thank Alliant for their openness to talk to the Sustainability Commission. Jim Martin Schramm was also on the call about electric car chargers and solar and things right at the Trout Run Trail. So good things happening.
That's great. Thanks, Ross. Kirk?
Nothing, Mayor.
Steve Zittergruen?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll just say a couple quick things. If this is my last meeting as a city council member, I just want to say thank you to you, Mayor, to Chad and Wanda, and everyone else on staff, and to my fellow council members. If this is my last meeting, I hope you show as much patience and care for helping get Tim on board and up to speed so he can be an effective member on the council, as you already have shown with me. This brief glimpse into the window of what makes a city tick has really made me more appreciative to be served by so many willing people who stepped up for service or to be on the city staff or to run the library, or I mean even to run the sewage plant. We are blessed to be served by a multitude. So it all works together to make Decorah a really great place to live. I hope I win tomorrow, but either way, I'm really glad to be part of you all in this work. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Andy Carlson?
I wasn't going to say anything, but Steve, I want to thank you for your time. If it is your last, and if it's not, I look forward to serving with you. I think Decorah is in good hands with either you or Tim. I feel like we're in a win-win situation. So I've been impressed with your professionalism and the way you've handled yourself thus far. And thank you again for serving. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Let's see, did I get Randy?
Not yet.
Randy? Anything?
Well, I don't have a whole lot. I just want to remind anybody listening or when this gets broadcast that Holiday Lights Magical Nights is open out at the campground, and it's been very, very impressive. The opening night, we could not do the walkthrough this year because of COVID, but we had over 230 cars when I left, and I left a little bit early because my back was starting to bother me. And then I worked it again last Friday night, and I don't know what the car count was, but it was steady from 5:30 to 8 while I was working in my station down by the river. So I just encourage people to get out. One of these days we might get a little snow, which really makes the lights pop, but get out and support helping services. This is a year where they can really use it. Thank you.
Is it a, Randy, just remind me, is it a fee or is it a free will offering?
Free will offering.
I've gone 3 times this year. It's amazing this year. I don't know if it's just because, you get out, but it's awesome.
Okay. I got just a couple things. I did participate in Luther College in an endeavor for civic sustainability initiative. This happened to be building bridges, and it was with Kristen Underwood, and it was great to be on a Zoom with a multiplicity of different people, whether it was students, international students, staff, city leaders, public, and it was a discussion as far as just listening to other people's stories and how we can accept each other in our communities. I appreciated that, and I think we're going to be extending that. I was honored to be able to read for the Chamber of Commerce for one of their initiatives for the holiday, and they're going to be having various community leaders reading books. You can go on a chamber and take a look at that. That was a lot of fun. I was extremely pleased today that we have filled all of the new spots that we had talked about way back in the budget session, which was, with excellent staff. It's exciting to have them at the table and looking forward to working with them. Last but not least, there's other creatures that frequent our town besides tourism, and happens to be pigeons. And there is a discussion about what's the responsibility for shop owners downtown for making sure that their sidewalks are cleaned off, and whose responsibility that is. Chad, can you just reiterate what you presented at the department head meeting this morning?
Yeah, just downtown sidewalks are no exception to the sidewalk code. Joining property owners are responsible for sidewalk maintenance, just like in the residential areas.
If you have any questions, call the city hall and ask. I did listen in to Krista Vanderbrink's report for the COVID. There were 137 new cases. I think we had 14 deaths at this time. Public health is working with powers that be as far as potential for vaccinations that might be coming and whatever. And that's, as Emily said, it continues to be something that we all have to be aware of. I also went to the fireworks on Thursday night, which was spectacular. It was so much fun. It was very choreographed, and we were very fortunate to have somebody in town that does those type of things. You don't get a show like that very often. If there's nothing else, and if I haven't forgotten anything else,
Mayor,
Yes.
This is Chad. I think Jeremy wants to introduce Tom.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that you said that. Jeremy Brill.
And
thanks, Mayor.
Can Tom say hi, and can Greg also, if he talks, we can see his face.
I'm not sure. I'll look to see if he's on.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'll be real quick here. I don't know if Tom's got his video set up. He's just moving in here this weekend, but there he is. So I'd like to introduce Tom Rhodes, Assistant City Engineer, started with us today. And Tom, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to come and serve the community of Decorah, and definitely excited to be here. University of Iowa grad, and just got moved into an apartment this last week, so survived my first day, and Jeremy didn't pick on me too bad, so looking forward to working with everybody.
Are you coming right from Iowa City?
Actually, no, I graduated from there, and I spent the last 10 years working for the Kansas Department of Transportation in various roles.
Oh, okay, yep.
So moving up here from Kansas.
Welcome.
Yes, and even
Welcome.
person, so it's
So
great.
Tom, you're not in Kansas anymore.
That's right. Yep.
Nope.
Welcome.
Okay, I'm assuming that the committee members that are, or anybody of the council wants to, they just stay on. Can we take maybe mute
Correct.
about a 5-minute break or 10-minute break? Is that how that works?
I'd take
Let's
about a
try
2-minute
five.
break and we'll use the same
Let's try
Zoom
2.
coordinates.
What did,
You're gonna have to give me more than 2, I think. I will go as quick as humanly possible.
take about a 5-minute break and come back and we'll have the Economic Development Committee meeting. Thank you very much, council. I appreciate it.